Captain Lehana stared at the flickering emergency beacon on her screen. The red dot pulsed like a dying heartbeat in the middle of the most dangerous region in known space, the Void Zone. Even thinking the name made her crew nervous. "Captain, we need to turn around right now," Park Daeho said from the engineering station. His hands shook as he spoke. Daeho had served on 15 different ships, survived 3 wars, and she had never seen him this scared. "That signal is coming from Morthak's territory." Kim Solly looked up from her navigation console, her face pale. "The records show that over 200 ships have vanished in that area. No survivors, ever." She pulled up a holographic map showing the Void Zone as a dark sphere between 3 star systems. Every government in the galaxy has declared it off limits. Hana studied the distress signal data. According to the readings, it was coming from a civilian transport called the Morning Star. The ship carried 43 passengers, mostly families traveling to the new colonies. Men, women, children, who had probably never imagined they would end up lost in the most feared place in the galaxy. "Captain," her communications officer Choi Minho spoke quietly. "I just ran the signal through our database. The Morning Star left Kepler Station 6 days ago. They have kids on board, really young ones." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. 43 innocent people, including children, were trapped in a place where an ancient monster had killed thousands for 3,000 years. The stories about Morthak were told in whispers across every space station and colony. They said he was older than most civilizations. They said he could bend space itself, and that looking at him would drive you insane. "We could contact the Earth Defense Force," suggested Lieutenant Yoon Ji-woo from the tactical station. "Maybe they could send a battleship." "By the time help arrives, those people will be dead," Hana replied. She had made her decision the moment she saw there were children involved. "We're the only ship close enough to make a difference." Park Dae-ho stood up from his station. "Captain, with all respect, this is suicide. Morthak has destroyed entire fleets. Our little exploration ship won't last 5 minutes against something that powerful." "Maybe," Hana said calmly. "But those people need help now, not in 3 days when the cavalry shows up." "I won't abandon them." Kim Solly checked her instruments one more time. "The Morning Star's life support will fail in 18 hours. If we're going to do this crazy thing, we need to leave now." Hana looked around at her crew. These people had followed her through asteroid fields and solar storms. They had explored new worlds together and shared countless meals in the ship's small dining room. She would never force them into certain death. "Anyone who wants to take a shuttle and head back to the nearest station can go, no questions asked. No black marks on your record. This is my choice, not yours." Nobody moved. Park Dae-ho sat back down at his station with a heavy sigh. "Well, if we're all going to die horribly, at least we'll do it together." Kim Solly started plotting their course into the Void Zone. "I'm setting our route to avoid the worst gravitational anomalies, though honestly, that might not matter once we get close to him." As the Star's Edge changed course toward the forbidden region, the normal busy sounds of the ship seemed quieter. The crew went about their duties, but everyone spoke in hushed tones. They all knew they might be flying toward their deaths. 2 hours later, they reached the edge of the Void Zone. The stars ahead looked wrong somehow, twisted and dim. Space itself seemed darker here, as if light struggled to exist in this place. The ship's sensors started picking up strange readings that made no scientific sense. "Captain," Minho called out, his voice tight with fear. "I'm getting massive energy. Signatures ahead. Whatever's out there, it's bigger than anything in our databases." Hana gripped her command chair as reality began to bend around them. The walls of the bridge seemed to stretch and warp. The lights flickered in patterns that hurt to look at. Through the main view screen, she could see something moving in the darkness ahead, something vast and ancient and filled with rage that had burned for thousands of years. "Hold steady," she told her crew as their ship entered the domain of the galaxy's greatest nightmare. "Those people are counting on us." In the twisted space ahead, something stirred that had not seen visitors in decades, something that had forgotten what it meant to hear words other than screams of terror. The darkness ahead began to shift and move like liquid shadow. At first it looked like empty space was folding in on itself. Then something emerged that defied every law of physics Hana had ever learned. Morthak appeared before them, like a living nightmare made of crystal and starlight. He was massive beyond comprehension. His body seemed to be carved from black crystal that pulsed with purple energy. Tentacles of pure darkness stretched out from his core, each one longer than their entire ship. Where normal space should have been, reality twisted and bent around him like he was too heavy for the universe to hold. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," Park Dae-ho whispered from his station. Every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. The lights went out, then came back on, then flickered in colors that shouldn't exist. The artificial gravity failed for a few seconds, making everyone float helplessly before slamming them back down. Kim Soli's navigation console sparked and went dead. "I can't get any readings. It's like space itself doesn't work properly near him." Lieutenant Yoon Ji-woo tried to reach for her weapons controls, but her hands were shaking too badly to hit the right buttons. "Captain, should I arm the plasma cannons?" "With what?" Choi Min-ho called out. His voice was barely a whisper. "Look at the power readings. Our entire ship could fire everything we have and it wouldn't even scratch him." The terror wasn't just fear, it was something deeper, more primal. Every human instinct screamed at them to run, to hide, to curl up in a corner, and hope this ancient thing would ignore them. Morthak radiated menace like a star radiates heat. Just looking at him made their minds want to shut down. But Hannah forced herself to stand up. Her legs felt like rubber, and her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. But she walked to the communications console. Her crew stared at her like she had lost her mind. "Captain, what are you doing?" Park Dae-ho asked. Hannah's hand hovered over the communication controls. Every fiber of her being told her this was insane. "You don't talk to forces of nature. You don't have conversations with hurricanes or earthquakes. And you definitely don't try to chat with something that had been killing people for 3,000 years. But she thought about the 43 people on the Morning Star. She thought about the children who were probably crying right now, wondering why their parents looked so scared. She pressed the button. "This is Captain Lee Hana of the exploration vessel Star's Edge," she said. Her voice only shook a little. "We're here to help some lost travelers. We don't want to fight. We just want to find people who are in trouble and get them to safety." The effect was instant and shocking. Morthak stopped moving. The twisted space around him seemed to freeze. For the first time in longer than most civilizations had existed, someone had spoken to him without screaming in terror or shouting threats. On the bridge of the Star's Edge, everyone held their breath. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Then something impossible happened. Morthak moved closer to their ship, but not to attack. He seemed to be studying them. Captain," Kim Soli whispered. "I think he's listening." Hana took a deep breath. "Hello," she said, speaking directly to the ancient being. "I know you probably don't get many visitors. Most people are afraid of you. But we're not here to cause trouble. There's a ship called the Morning Star somewhere in this area. It has families on board, kids. They're lost and scared, and their life support is failing." She paused, watching as Morthak's crystalline form pulsed with different colors. Was he thinking? Was he even capable of understanding her words? "I don't know if you've seen them," Hana continued. "But if you have, could you help us find them? We just want to take them home safely." Park Dae-ho was staring at his captain like she had grown a second head. "Captain, are you actually having a conversation with the most dangerous thing in the galaxy?" "Shh," Hana said without taking her eyes off Morthak. Something was happening. The oppressive terror that had filled their ship was starting to fade, just a little. The ancient being's energy patterns were changing, becoming less chaotic and violent. For 3,000 years, every encounter Morthak had with other beings followed the same pattern. Ships would enter his domain, see him, and immediately either attack or flee in panic. Weapons would fire uselessly at his crystalline form, or engines would scream as vessels tried desperately to escape. Always fear, always violence, always the same ending. But this small human was talking to him like he was a person, not a monster or a force of destruction, but someone who might actually listen and understand. It was so unexpected that Morthak found himself frozen with confusion. Deep within his crystalline consciousness, memories began to stir. Memories of a time when his people, the ancient Vorthak, had been explorers and teachers, when they had helped other species learn and grow instead of destroying them. Before, the great disaster that had twisted him into this lonely, rage-filled existence. The human captain was still talking, her voice calm and respectful. She spoke about the lost ship and the children on board. She wasn't begging or threatening. She was simply asking for help, one being to another. Something that had been frozen in Morthak's heart for millennia began to crack, just a little. Instead of destroying this tiny ship as he had destroyed so many others, he made a choice that surprised even himself. He would let them search for their lost travelers, and perhaps for the first time in 3,000 years, he would watch to see what these strange, brave humans would do. Morthak followed the star's edge through the twisted void, keeping his distance but watching everything. He had expected the humans to panic once they realized he was near. Instead, he witnessed something he hadn't seen in thousands of years. "Minho, can you boost the signal strength?" Hana asked as they searched for the morning star. "Those people must be terrified." "Already on it, Captain," Minho replied, his fingers flying over the communications panel. "I'm routing extra power from the secondary systems." Park Daeho looked up from his engineering station. "Captain, that'll drain our backup batteries faster. If something goes wrong with our main power, we might not have enough energy to get home." Hana didn't hesitate. "Do it anyway. Getting those people to safety is more important than our backup power." Morthak watched this exchange with growing fascination. The engineer had given his captain a perfectly logical reason to conserve their resources. Any sensible commander would have agreed. But this human was willing to risk her own ship's safety for strangers she had never met. Kim Soli suddenly straightened at her navigation console. "I'm getting something. Faint energy signature about 2 kilometers off our starboard side." She worked frantically to clean up the signal. "It's definitely artificial. Could be the morning star." "Take us there," Hana ordered. "Carefully. Their hull might be damaged." As they approached the lost ship, Morthak could see it clearly with his enhanced senses. The morning star was in bad shape. Its hull was cracked in several places, and one of its engines was completely dead. The life support systems were failing, just as the distress signal had indicated. "There she is," Yun Jiwoo called out as the damaged ship appeared on their view screen. "Looks like they hit some kind of spatial distortion. The hull is buckled but not breached." Hana immediately switched to emergency protocols. "Minho, open a channel to the Morning Star. Daeho, prep the docking tube. Soli, bring us alongside nice and easy. Jiwoo, scan for any structural weak points. We need to avoid." Morthak observed how each crew member responded instantly to their captain's orders, but more than that, he could sense their emotions. These humans weren't just following commands. They genuinely cared about the people they were trying to save. Their relief at finding the ship alive was real. Their determination to help was absolute. It reminded him of something from long, long ago. "Morning Star, this is Captain Lee Hana of the Star's Edge," Hana spoke into her communicator. "We received your distress signal. We're here to get you out of this mess." The response came through filled with static and tears. "Thank the stars. This is Captain Yang Wubin of the Morning Star. We have 43 souls on board, including 12 children. Our life support is failing, and our navigation is completely dead." "We see that," Hana replied calmly. "Don't worry, Captain Jiang. We're going to dock with your ship and transfer everyone to safety. Just hold tight for a few more minutes." As the rescue operation began, Morthak found himself remembering things he had tried to forget. His people, the Vorthak, had once been just like these humans. They had traveled the galaxy not to conquer or exploit, but to help. They had found struggling civilizations and taught them about agriculture, medicine, and technology. They had rescued ships in distress and asked for nothing in return. The Vorthak had believed that all intelligent life was precious. They had seen diversity as strength and had celebrated the different ways that various species solved problems. Morthak remembered his own younger self, working alongside his people to build hospitals on primitive worlds and schools on developing planets. But that was before the Great Experiment. Before his people's scientists had tried to harness the energy of dark matter itself. Before the accident that had transformed their entire homeworld into a writhing mass of destructive energy, killing billions and leaving only Morthak as a twisted survivor. "Docking complete," Park Dae-ho announced. "The tube is sealed and pressurized. We're ready for passenger transfer." Hana stood up from her command chair. "I'm going over to help coordinate the evacuation." "Soli, you're in command while I'm gone." "Captain," Kim Soli protested. "Let me go instead. If something happens to you—" "Nothing's going to happen," Hana said firmly. "But those people are scared and confused. They need to see that we're not afraid to come aboard their ship. Sometimes leadership means showing up in person." Morthak watched as Hana personally helped evacuate the Morning Star. She carried frightened children in her arms, comforted crying parents, and worked alongside her crew to move elderly passengers safely through the docking tube. When one of the children asked if they were going to die, Hana knelt down to the little girl's level and smiled. "Not today," she said gently. "My crew and I are going to make sure you get home safely to your family." The evacuation took 2 hours. Every single person from the Morning Star was brought aboard the Star's Edge safely. Hana's crew worked without complaint, even though their ship was now dangerously overcrowded. They shared their food, their sleeping quarters, and their emergency supplies without being asked. When the last passenger was secure, Hana returned to her bridge. She looked exhausted but satisfied. "Set course for Kepler Station," she told Kim Soli. "Let's get these people home." It was then that Morthak made a decision that shocked even himself. Instead of simply watching the human ship leave, he materialized, directly in front of the Star's Edge. But this time he didn't radiate menace. Instead, he projected his consciousness directly into their communications system. "Captain Lee Hana," his voice echoed through their bridge speakers. The crew jumped in surprise, but Hana stepped forward calmly. "Yes, are you Morthak?" "I am," he replied. His voice was deep and ancient, like the sound of distant thunder. "I have a question for you, human." Hana's crew looked terrified, but she remained steady. "What would you like to know? Why did you speak to me with kindness? Why did you risk your life and the lives of your crew to save strangers? In 3,000 years, no one has shown me anything but fear and hatred. Why are you different?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Hana thought for a moment, then answered, with the simple honesty that had defined her entire career. "Because everyone deserves to be treated with respect, even you." For the first time in millennia, Morthak felt something besides rage and loneliness. Deep within his crystalline heart, the ice that had frozen his emotions began to crack. "Tell Faye about yourself," Hana said, settling into her captain's chair. Her crew exchanged nervous glances, but she kept her voice steady and calm. "You said no one has shown you kindness in 3,000 years. That's a very long time to be alone." Morthak's crystalline form pulsed with dim light as he considered her words. When he spoke again, his voice carried a weight of sadness that seemed to press down on everyone listening. "Long ago, my people were called the Vorthak. We were explorers, teachers, healers. We traveled between the stars not to conquer, but to help other species grow and learn." He paused, and the space around their ship seemed to darken. "We were much like you humans, actually, curious about the universe, eager to make friends with other races." Kim Soli leaned forward in her chair. "What happened to them? To your people?" "We became too ambitious," Morthak replied. "Our scientists discovered a way to harness the energy that exists between dimensions. Dark energy, you call it now. They believed we could use it to end hunger, to power our cities, to heal the sick across entire worlds." Park Dae-ho shook his head. "But something went wrong. Everything went wrong." The ancient being's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "The experiment tore open reality itself. Our entire homeworld was consumed by dark energy in seconds. Billions of my people died instantly. Cities, forests, oceans, all transformed into writhing darkness." Hana felt her heart clench. "And you survived." "If you can call this surviving," Morthak said bitterly. "The energy changed me, twisted my body and mind. I became this crystalline nightmare you see before you. But worse than the physical transformation was the isolation. The dark energy made me dangerous to be around. Every time I tried to make contact with other beings, my presence would drive them insane or kill them outright." Choi Minho's voice was soft with sympathy. So you had to stay, away from everyone. For centuries I tried to find a way to control it. I meditated in the void between stars. I practiced restraining my power, but every attempt at contact ended in disaster. Ships would explode just from being near me. Space stations would lose power and drift helplessly. Entire colonies would evacuate when I approached. Yoon Jiwoo asked the question everyone was thinking. Is that why you started attacking ships? Because you were angry? Morthak was quiet for a long moment. At first, I tried to warn them away, but they couldn't understand my communications. The dark energy distorted everything I said into terrible noise. They would see me and attack, thinking I was some kind of monster. After centuries of being shot at, hunted, and feared, I stopped trying to explain. I became what they believed I was. You became the monster, because that's what everyone expected, Hana said quietly. Yes. It was easier than feeling the pain of rejection over and over again. Easier than remembering what I used to be when my people were alive, and I was just another explorer who wanted to help others. The bridge fell silent. Hana could see the profound sadness in her crew's faces. They were beginning to understand that the galaxy's most feared creature wasn't evil. He was just incredibly, unbearably lonely. But you didn't attack us, she pointed out. When we spoke to you with respect, you listened. You were the first beings in 3 millennia to treat me like a person instead of a threat, Morthak replied. You reminded me of who I used to be, who my people used to be. Hana stood up and walked closer to the view screen where Morthak's image flickered. What if you didn't have to be alone anymore? Impossible. My very presence is deadly to most life forms. Even now your ship's systems are being affected by the dark energy around me. Maybe, Hana said thoughtfully, but humans are good at solving impossible problems. We've learned to live in space, to travel between stars, to make friends with dozens of different alien species. Maybe we could figure out a way to help you control your abilities. Park Daeho looked up from his engineering console with excitement. Captain, I'm reading the energy patterns around us. They're chaotic, but there might be a way to create some kind of harmonic dampener. If we could match the frequency of his dark energy and create an opposing wave. You would do this for me? Morthak's voice was filled with disbelief. Even knowing what I am? What I've done? Everyone deserves a chance at friendship, Hana said simply. Even someone who's been alone for 3,000 years. For the first time since his transformation, Morthak felt something he had thought was lost forever. Hope. But before he could respond, Kim Soli's console erupted in urgent beeping. Captain, I'm detecting multiple ships approaching our position. Big ones. Military signatures from at least 6 different species. Yoon Jiwoo's tactical display lit up with red warnings. Confirmed. I count 3 Earth Defense Force battleships, 2 Altarian cruisers, and what looks like a Zephyrian dreadnought. They're all armed and heading straight for us. Choi Minho's face went pale as he monitored the communications channels. Captain, they're broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. Someone reported our contact with Morthak. They think we've been compromised or captured, Hana cursed under her breath. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, maybe less, Kim Soli reported. Morthak's form began to pulse with agitation. They come to destroy me, as they always have. You should leave now, Captain Hana. Take your rescued passengers and go. I will not let them harm you for showing me kindness. No, Hana said firmly. We're not abandoning you. If there's a chance we can help you find control, then we're going to try. Right now. Captain, Park Daeho said urgently, if we're going to attempt this, we need to work fast. Once those fleets arrive, they won't listen to explanations. They'll shoot first and ask questions later. Hana looked around at her crew. Are you all with me on this? We could run right now and probably make it to safety. But if we stay and try to help Morthak, we might be putting ourselves in serious danger. One by one, her crew nodded their agreement. Even with military fleets approaching and their lives on the line, they were willing to help a lonely being who had been suffering for thousands of years. All right then, Hana said, turning back to Morthak. We have 6 hours to change the course of galactic history. Let's get to work. In the distance, the approaching warships prepared their weapons. convinced they were flying toward a battle against the galaxy's greatest threat. They had no idea they were about to witness something unprecedented, the transformation of a monster back into the peaceful explorer he had once been. "All right, everyone, we have 6 hours to do something that's never been done before," Hana announced. To her crew, "Deho, I need you to work with Morthak on understanding his energy patterns. Soli, monitor our position and track those incoming fleets. Minho, keep all channels open. We might need to talk our way out of this. Jiwoo, run diagnostics. On every system we have. We're going to need everything working perfectly." Park Deho was already deep in his engineering displays, sweat beading on his forehead. "Morthak, can you show me exactly how your dark energy flows? I'm seeing massive fluctuations, but there might be an underlying pattern we can work with." Morthak focused his consciousness on demonstrating his power in small, controlled bursts. "The energy has always been chaotic since my transformation. It responds to my emotions. Anger makes it more destructive. Sadness makes it spread wider." "What about when you feel calm?" Daiho asked, watching his readings carefully. I haven't felt truly calm in centuries," Morthak admitted. "But when I listened to Captain Hana speak to those rescued passengers, when I saw your crew working together, something changed. The energy felt less wild." Kim Soli looked up from her navigation console. "The approaching fleets are maintaining attack formation. Admiral Chen Taijun of the Earth Defense Force is leading the group. He's not known for listening to explanations first." Hana nodded grimly. She knew Admiral Chen's reputation. He was a good man, but he'd lost ships to unknown threats before. He wouldn't take any chances with something as dangerous as Morthak. "Daiho, what have you found?" she asked. "Something incredible, Captain. Morthak's energy isn't just destructive, it's creative too. He's been unconsciously repairing microfractures in space-time wherever he goes. The dark energy that makes him dangerous is also healing damage that most ships never even notice." Morthak seemed surprised by this revelation. "Repairing? I thought I only caused destruction. Look at these readings," Daiho continued excitedly. "Every place you've been, the fabric of space is actually stronger than before. You've been fixing tiny tears in reality without even knowing it," Yoon Jiwoo called out from her station. "I'm detecting massive spatial distortions about 50 kilometers away. Looks like residual damage from some kind of ancient battle. That's from the war between the Kethvar and the Zelians 800 years ago," Morthak explained. "Their weapons tore holes in space itself. I've been meaning to repair that area, but every time I try, ships arrive and attack me." Hana felt a spark of inspiration. "What if we help you fix it now, before the fleets arrive? If they see you healing instead of destroying, maybe they'll listen to us." "It would require precise control of my abilities," Morthak said uncertainly. "And I would need to concentrate completely. I'd be vulnerable to attack." "Then we protect you while you work," Hana said firmly. "Daiho, can you rig some kind of harmonic resonator to help stabilize his energy?" Park Daiho was already working. Frantically, "I can modify our deflector array to create a stabilizing field. It won't be perfect, but it might give him the control he needs." "Do it," Hana ordered. For the next 4 hours, the crew of the Star's Edge worked with desperate efficiency. Daiho jury-rigged systems that weren't meant to work together. Minho coordinated with Morthak to understand how his consciousness interfaced with the dark energy. Soli plotted the most efficient path to the damaged space. Jiwoo prepared every defensive system they had. "Resonator online," Daiho announced. "Morthak, try focusing your energy now." The ancient being concentrated and something beautiful happened. Instead of chaotic purple lightning, his energy formed into smooth, controlled streams. The dark, crystalline spikes on his body began to glow with warm, steady light. "It's working," he said with wonder in his voice. "I can feel the difference. The energy is responding to my will instead of my pain." 2 hours until the fleets arrive," Soli reported. "We need to start the repair work now." Morthak moved toward the damaged area of space, with the Star's Edge following at a safe distance. What happened next was unlike anything the crew had ever witnessed. The ancient being began to weave streams of controlled dark energy through the tears in space-time, stitching reality back together like a cosmic surgeon. "Incredible," Daiho whispered, watching his instruments. He's not just patching the damage, he's making space stronger than it was before. The work was exhausting for Morthak, requiring levels of concentration and control he hadn't achieved in millennia. But with the harmonic stabilizer helping him maintain focus, he pressed on. Slowly, methodically, he repaired centuries of cosmic damage. Fleet contact in 30 minutes, Jiwoo announced tensely. Almost finished, Morthak replied, his voice strained but determined. When the military fleets finally arrived, led by Admiral Chen's massive battleship, they found something none of them had expected. Instead of a monster terrorizing a human vessel, they saw Morthak carefully finishing his repair work while the Star's Edge stood guard nearby. "This is Admiral Chen Taejun to all ships," came the transmission. "Hold position. Do not fire unless fired upon." Hana opened a channel to the fleet. "Admiral Chen, this is Captain Lee Hana. I know this looks impossible, but Morthak is not our enemy. He's been trying to help repair damage to space itself." "Captain Hana, are you under duress? Has this entity threatened you or your crew?" "No. Sir, he saved our lives and helped us rescue 43 civilians. Admiral, I know this is hard to believe, but everything we thought we knew about Morthak was wrong." Over the next several hours, with representatives from multiple species watching via holographic conference, Hana and her crew presented their findings. They showed the spatial repairs, demonstrated the harmonic stabilizer, and most importantly, let Morthak speak for himself. "I have been alone for 3,000 years, Morthak told the assembled fleet commanders. "I became the monster you feared because I forgot how to be anything else. But these humans reminded me of who I used to be, who I still can be." The Galactic Council emergency session lasted for days. In the end, it was Morthak's offer to share ancient Vorthak knowledge about space-time manipulation that convinced them to give him a chance. Technologies that could revolutionize space travel, medicine, and energy production. But more than that, it was the simple fact that Captain Lee Hana and her crew had treated him with kindness when no one else would. 6 months later, the being, once known as Morthak, took a new name. Velanos, which meant hope-bringer in the ancient Vorthak language. He joined a joint research initiative led by human scientists, working to develop new technologies that could benefit all species in the galaxy. The Star's Edge became the flagship of a new exploration program, with Velanos serving as their guide to regions of space that had been too dangerous to explore before. Captain Hana and her crew became legends throughout the galaxy, not for their military victories or scientific discoveries, but for their willingness to offer friendship to the unknown. Years later, when young beings from dozens of species learned about this story, they understood an important truth. Sometimes the scariest monsters are just lonely souls who have forgotten how to connect with others. And sometimes the greatest strength any species can have is the courage to extend a hand in friendship, even when everything seems impossible. The galaxy learned that day that humans possessed something rarer than advanced technology or powerful weapons. They had the ability to see the person hidden inside the monster and the compassion to help that person remember who they truly were. And in the end, that made all the difference.